Let me tell you, I had a lot of experiences where I was frustrated by really great visions and good ideas and things that would develop into great kingdom outcomes, and then that whole process seemed to be stalled or demoted or less, because in my attempts to try and get people to come along with me, giving really clear directions. We're going to do this, and this is why, and really clear vision. The vision's this, and here's the directions. And then say, let's go and do it, and find that thing seems to just fizzle out. It doesn't seem to take off, it doesn't launch. And most of the time, in my ignorance, I felt it was other people's lack of faithfulness, lack of dedication, lack of commitment. Until I started to understand these principles that I'm going to share with you today. And they're very simple principles, but the insight you're going to get is we often miss a couple of them. And if you miss one, you lose the progression to the outcome. So as I was trying to work out what was going wrong, why things weren't developing, why I couldn't get to the next level, I started to realise that the problem wasn't the people I was leading, the problem was in the way I was leading. The reason they didn't launch was not because I didn't tell them something. I failed to show them something and take them on a journey with me. And you'll see more of those details as we go along. This process is about equipping, not directing. And it sounds like a subtle difference, but there's more to it than meets the eye. Let me use my hero as my example. My hero, as I know for many of you, is Jesus. And Jesus set the bar for how kingdom is done. So Jesus comes, and we will all know, to preach the kingdom, to show the kingdom, and to get us to live the kingdom. And who knows, he did a pretty good job. You wouldn't be here if what he started didn't work. And this has lasted over 2,000 years now. Who wants to leave a legacy, a success legacy, that takes over half of the planet and sets people on a destiny to be the loving child of God? Who wants to be part of that?
Yes.
We will learn from Jesus, who set the model and invites us into it. I want to let you know there's a feature in this that sometimes I feel like we're not convinced by. The simplicity of what Jesus did was follow me. Who knows that? Just follow me. So when he asked us to follow him, did he think we could do it?
Yes.
I'm wondering whether you're thinking seriously or whether you're going, why are you asking me that? It's a simple question. If I asked my son to go out and lift up the car and pull the motor out of it, that would be silly because he can't do it. If I asked my son to follow me on my motorbike while I ride down the road like a kangaroo, that'd be silly because he can't do it. So when you ask someone to follow you, you ask them because you believe in them. Now we know we're called to believe in him. True? I think sometimes we forget he actually believes in us. So he's invited you to look like him because he believes you. So first of all, just put your hand on your heart. This is just a little spiritual exercise. Sorry about making it so spiritual. Hand on your heart. Now you're speaking to your own self, your soul. And you say, soul, agree. Jesus believes in you. Now I want you to turn to the person next to you and say kindly, just say kindly, Jesus believes in you. And if you took nothing away from today, from my little talk, but that, I would be very happy. Because if you start to believe he believes in you, everything he said about you will come true. But let me take you a step further anyway. If you got that and that's all, that would be enough. Let me say how leadership is exercised. Now, John 13 is the Last Supper. It's part of it. And in the Last Supper, the leader of the kingdom revolution that came served. And he served not because he felt lowly, he served because he was secure. Let me make it very clear. If you know you're loved and everything the Father has is yours, you don't have to compete with anyone. If you know you're loved and everything the Father has is yours, you can minister freely to other people because they can't take anything from you. Because you are actually a conduit, a channel, a river to actually bless them because you're fully blessed. Many of us don't know how blessed we are. And that's sad, but we're on a journey to learn that. You will have heard Reuben talk about the difference between a citizen to an ambassador. How amazing. You heard Peter talk about the difference between a problem and a plan to a promise. You heard Matthew speak about stewarding what's in your hands from an entrepreneurial setting that's set by heaven. Now, the challenge, friends, is that most of our experiences have been set by the world. And so our internal language comes from the language we've seen around us. So we see competition, we see comparison, we see use people, not serve people. We see a whole heap of things that do not fit kingdom. And it's very challenging to us. It's challenging to us to admit about ourselves that we might do it. Because that's what we've been grown in. But Jesus takes us out of that and puts us into kingdom as sons. Who knows that? And then he says, now I need you to learn from me. So I make you a son, now I need you to learn to be a son or a daughter. So in this process, we learn from Jesus, firstly, that to be secure and in all things from your leadership to serve. And that's very countercultural to a lot of leadership stuff we're taught, which is about high control and nearly punishment if they don't do what we want. This is actually not about this. This is about being so secure that you're free to actually advance others. Now, I've got to tell you that if you can get that, it's a breakthrough. When you realise your next advancement will be in how much you advance those around you. Where most of us are trying to advance ourselves at the expense of someone else, Jesus advanced us all because he had nothing to lose. And if we understand that kingdom principle, it'll take us far. The next thing is there's a different way that Jesus teaches or a desire to teach than what we often experience in education. Some of you people here will have done a course or a degree or a diploma, have been highly educated, is that right? And most of the education models I've seen are giving information to see if you can repeat the information. So I'll give you the information, and if you can do the exam and tell me what I said or what the book said, then you pass. But who knows that most of the time that doesn't mean you can do anything. It just means you can be a parrot. I'm a kangaroo, you're a parrot. No. And who knows that's not. Many people do courses and degrees and get trained and then go out and feel totally unable to do the careers that they go into because they actually haven't been equipped. They've just been told. So Jesus actually instituted a model that simply, we all know the passage. Go and make disciples, baptize, send them into the world. To do what? To teach. No, to teach them to obey. So the outcome is a process of sharing what I have so that you can do what I do. I want to share with you what I have so that you can be like me. That's why Jesus believes in us, because he knew how to teach us so that we could. And if you're on that journey of becoming like him, don't give up. Maybe find better teachers. I'm going to try and take you straight up to some of the steps. For those of you who like to get approval from the secular perspective that some of the stuff you're hearing is correct, the model I'm using is been taught many years ago, or at least observed by that character. And that character. So IBM used this training model. They changed from some of the stuff they were doing to use this because they realised just giving information and assuming it's going to equal transformation is not going to work. So I'm going to take you through these steps. There's a bigger picture that'll make it a bit easier. I hope the words aren't too English. I don't know. My first time in an Asian country, so I'm wondering all the time, am I using a word like kangaroo that's not helpful? Porky, echidna. How old an echidna is?
Echidna.
Echidna. So I'm hoping these words don't sound like echidna. So who feels like they understand the idea of not being aware or not being conscious of something? So unconscious incompetence. So I don't know that I'm not any good at something. Does anyone? So sometimes when we go into a new venture, sometimes when we have a new vision, sometimes when we have a call by Jesus into a thing or a call into business to be kingdom, sometimes when we go into it, we start very, very excited. Who's felt the excitement of a new plan or a new vision? I do. Coming here, I felt really excited. About an hour and a half ago, Matthew came up to me and said, relax, man, it'll be all right. Because I realised, hang on a minute, I'm actually doing this. Because sometimes our excitement then goes, whoops. Sometimes we start full of confidence, full of excitement, when our real competence or our real capacity is that we're unaware of the things that we'll need to know to get to that outcome. And that's what it means. Unconscious incompetence. I don't know that I don't know. Who's experienced that? Started on a great idea, and then as they're about 2 steps into it, realised they haven't got a clue what they're doing. Let me just give you a quick example from Jesus. When Jesus first called the disciples, did he ask them to know everything before they said yes? No. Did he say, look, you can come and follow me, and you can pick out of these 10 things, you can pick one of them? Did he just say, come and follow me? Yes. Was he highly directive? Yes. Did he negotiate? No. At that first level, when you're starting a new thing with a new person, you want to be highly directive because they don't know what they don't know. When you're training somebody, even if they're excited, they don't know what they don't know. So that's the first step. And if you look at the roles, and that's what I'm trying to explain with his role, our role, when you're starting a new thing and you're a leader, what you want people to do is you want to do the role, regardless of what it is, whether it's making a wooden chair or writing a program for a computer thing or an app. It doesn't matter what it is. At the initial stage when you're training people, you don't want to just tell them and release them. You want to say, watch me. Watch the master craftsman. I don't need your help because you don't know what to do yet. I want you to learn from me. Does that make sense? It's simple, isn't it? So that first stage is, in Jesus' case, he did, and we watched. And he did that with his disciples in the first part of his time with them. Now we'll move to the second step. And this is where we become aware that we don't know what we're doing. And that's why it's called conscious incompetence. So once you start doing it, you go, why can't I do this? Why is this so hard? It looked easy for him. Why is it so hard for me? I thought I could do this. I was full of confidence and excitement. Now I'm low on confidence, I'm low on excitement, and I'm low on experience, and I'm low on competence. Who's experienced that? You've started a new job, and you've got in, you're ready to take over the world, and within 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, you're going, what have I got myself in for? Now, most people make a terrible error at this stage. It's called give up. Because now they've worked out they don't know, that just means get to know. It doesn't mean stop. But one of the things the world teaches us is if it's hard, don't do it. Well, the reality is everything's hard before it gets easy. Everything you've learned in your life so far, every single thing, your personal things, your corporate things, your business things, your training things, it was all hard before it got easy. And step 2 is when we become aware that we don't have the skill yet. The challenge will be, do we have the character to continue? Do we believe that Jesus believes in us? Because at this stage, many people say no. And in the kingdom, Jesus taught his followers through this same issue. And there's a passage in Luke 12 32, and I'll let you look it up in your own time, but just to give you a quick statement, Jesus says, "Do not be afraid, little flock." When Jesus says, "Do not be afraid, little flock," it wasn't because they weren't afraid, it's because they were. He says, "Don't be afraid," because they really felt like they couldn't do it. And what he was doing was encouraging them back to the vision, encouraging them to the dream. This is step 2. So the leader's a coach who's still doing it, but he's getting you to help. So he does, we help. Second stage. Now, friends, some of you are at the early stage of developing what you want to do. You might find yourself in the position of actually being the one that's watching and helping. You may find you need to have someone in your life that already has the thing that you want. You understand what I mean? Has the skill you want, has the outcome you want, so that you can watch them, so that you can help them, so that you can go through this process. But if you're a team leader, or you ever want to be, if you can pick up the reality that many people get quite afraid at a certain point and not give up on them. If you could take the attitude of Jesus and serve them so they might reach their potential, if you would advance them, it will advance you. But if you lord it over them, which is the thing Jesus warned against, didn't he? He said, "I don't want you to be like the rest of the world." They lord it over people. They treat them as less than. They use people, they use people and they end up spent. Who's seen that in the world? Where people are like a product that are just absorbed. But if you invest in them, it doesn't always work out that they'll be loyal, but they've got a higher chance than the other one. And Jesus, out of 12, got 11 that were loyal. So in this model, he's saying, he recognises they're afraid. He doesn't push them out the front of the queue and say, "Off you go on your own." He says, "Come and help me." So the first step is unconscious incompetence, or "I do, you watch." The second one is conscious incompetence, and that's when the learner feels that way. In that situation, the leader's doing an "I do," and the person learning is helping. Step 3 is who remembers having learnt a skill, but you had to keep thinking about it to get it right? You couldn't just do it naturally. So if you just stop thinking about it, you wreck it again. You go back to getting it wrong. This stage is called conscious competence. So I have to choose to get the new thing I have done. Now let me say, when Ruben was talking about changing your mind, who remembers him saying change your mind? Move from citizen to ambassador will mean you have to change your understanding of who you are. But when we go to change our understanding, the reality is there's an existing understanding there already. And we have to put it off, get rid of it, and then put the new one on. You can't just put the new idea on top of the old one, because it'll slide off. The hole's already full. What you would do is take the old one out, put the new one on. In this case, what's happening is we've got that new one, but we haven't got enough habitual practice for it to be automatic. So in this case, we move to a point where we're showing real promise. So what you want to do when you're training people is not have them on a training program as much as having them on training progress. So if they're at D1 and they're full of confidence and they're trying to be the boss, you don't let them be the boss because they don't know. If they're at T2 and they want to give up, you're going to be like Jesus and serve them, not come down to that level, draw them up to yours by encouraging them and coaching them with the vision. And if they're at D3, what happens now is you start to share the experience, which is exactly what Jesus did. Let me give you a couple of quick examples. So we've got an example in John 15 where he says, "I no longer call you servants, I call you friends." Everything the Father has told me, I've told you. We're in this together. Who could ever imagine Jesus actually pulling you in next to him under his arm and saying, "You're in this with me"? How do I know he does that? Well, his Father, he says you can call him our Father. He pulls you in under his arm. He says, "You're a son now, so my dad, you can call your dad." Or our dad, our Father. There's a couple of other passages there. Luke 10 is a really good example where Jesus trusts them so much that he sends them out in front of where he's going to go. So he's going to go to a place and do ministry, and he sends the disciples ahead of him to do what he's going to do, to heal the sick, to raise the dead, to preach the kingdom. And what that is, we do, and Jesus helps. Does that make sense? We do, Jesus helps. But if you apply that to a business model, if you try to apply it to a workplace, there's a shift in who's taking responsibility. And this is how you train. You shift a person when their progress has got to the point where they can do it, and you just need to help a bit. This is not what happens in the world. You get trained, you get information, and you get flung into the situation, sink or swim. Kingdom doesn't do that, because kingdom serves. Doesn't lord it over you, doesn't direct and delegate you, does all 4 steps. Let me show you step 4. Step 4 is now when, who knows when you can just do something automatically. Anyone here drive a car in Jakarta? What is wrong with you? No. I was out in that traffic, man. I've never seen anything like that in my life. And I went all around Europe. Man, that is amazing. Can I tell you one of the most things I was amazed by? So polite. You wouldn't get that in Australia, I'm telling you. Not at all. People letting each other in, only tooting to let them know you're there. But just so you know, so we don't crash. I understand. Tell me what the rules are. Who here has been right to make a big job? So step 4 is when that skill you've been practicing, you actually can do it automatically. You don't have to think to do it, it just happens. But this training process, if you would consider both allowing yourself to be trained this way. So when I want to learn a new thing, I make whoever's leading me do it this way. Ruben and me have had discussions about certain things, and he'll tell me a D1 direction, and then he'll say, just go and do it. And I'll go, no, I haven't done D2 and D3 yet. And he goes, yeah, that's right, you're one of them. In this situation, we've grown in confidence and experience, and we actually can do what we're designed to do easy. Now, if you'll use this in your business to train yourself if you're at that early stage, find someone who has what you want, kingdom values, watch, help, do and let them help, and then move forward. The Great Commission obviously is that for Jesus, isn't it? I've shown you, I've told you, I've taught you everything. Now I want you to go and be like me to everyone else. I want you to be like me. I want you to teach them the way I taught you, so that they can be like you're like me. You've got all that. Was that too many likes? And in that case we do, and he watches. Now so let me highlight the relationships or the role of the leader. If you're a learner and you get a leader that understands this, you will advance. You will progress, not in a program, but to your potential. Do people resonate with that? Who feels like someone's invested in them until they've got to a point where they've developed a competency? Someone invested in you. Some of you may never have experienced this. Some cultures have none of this in them at all. And I won't claim to know the Indonesian culture, so I won't speak about it because it would be out of ignorance. I can talk to you about kangaroos, I can talk to you about Australia, and in many cases there, you're educated and flung into the situation. I wouldn't think it'd be that much different here, but maybe it is. Similar? You feel like it's similar? So, in the leadership role, if you see the yellow words, which is the only ones I can read, the first role of the leader is to be quite directive. Because you don't want to let somebody that doesn't really know what they're doing decide what you're doing. Make sense? So you're highly directive. I'll do it and you watch. And they go, oh, you do it this way. Yeah, you can tell me when we get to D3. Dimension 3. But at this stage, why don't you just learn what I know? The Bible talks about imitating God. That's learning what he knows, not telling him what to know. The Bible talks about following Jesus. It doesn't say lead him, does it? It says follow. And so D1 is, as a leader, you'd be highly directive because you want the other person to get what you have. You're going to lead with a servant's heart. So you're not leading as a bully. You're not leading from a position of lording it over someone. You're leading because you're secure as a son in the kingdom. You're secure, and you're going to serve that person so they advance. Now the spin-off is whatever they get, you get. If they advance, you advance. What happens if you've got an idea, a business idea, and you run it in a kingdom way, and you produce another person that has the same capacities and competencies that you have, the same skill capacities, whether it takes them a long progress or a short one, then they can literally stand in the place of you in your business. All of a sudden, you are a business owner, not working in a business. If you could actually multiply yourself, hang on a minute, sounds like Jesus. He multiplied himself with 12 followers. They multiplied themselves, and we're all here as a result of it. I think we've lost some of the essence of it, to be honest, and that's why this is my passion. To put this back into discipling people with a servant heart that sees people multiply the potential of another believer, upgrade them to who they are. Jesus believes in you, why don't we believe in each other? Like often, we'll say, oh, Jesus believes in you, and we'll meet many people that don't believe in us. And in a kingdom situation, they would, if they took it through the process. So the first one's highly directive, the second one's a coach. Now you're not a naughty coach, a bad coach, a yelling coach, an abusive coach. You're a coach that invites people into their potential. So if they're first starting to do a new task, a new skill, a new competency, and they make a mess of it, that's not dismissing mode. That's not give up mode. That's how do I get you through this doubt, through this fear, through that sense of feeling I can't do it. Who's ever done a new task and just sat there and go, I can't do this. I just can't do it. Everyone does. Everyone's been through this. Right? The ones that held their hands up were quickly identifying it. The others are going, oh, I thought that was normal. Because we've all been through this. But see, Jesus didn't give up on it, we believed it. And if we could model kingdom with our staff, or if we're just starting with ourselves. Like when I go to do a new thing now, I have to believe in me. I have to believe in me like Jesus does. The next stage is collaborative. And collaborative is that point where there's a discussion. That point is they've had enough experience that now they know something. Have you ever felt like you've been in a situation where you've got to the point where you know something, but they still won't listen to you? Has anyone been in a position like that? Because what you end up with is not a business model which protects people. It's a business model that protects itself from being advanced over. But if we run a business that advances everybody, guess where you end up? You end up advanced beyond everyone, and no one wants to leave you because you recognise their development. You love and serve their development. You are like Jesus, serving them. And did God elevate Jesus or demote Jesus? So we're designed, the Bible says, glory to glory to glory. But if you won't do that for others, how do you think it will come to you? So you advance others. And the last one is delegate. When they're ready, just release them. So if they're ready to literally run the business that you're in, then advance them, position them, reward them. Don't hold the reward back. Reward them. Make it the best job they're ever going to have in their life. And they will never leave. You might actually get to the point where you've got 10 of those businesses that you've raised people up into, and your job's just to run 10 business leaders. One of them might raise up, and now you've got 100. Because you're looking after the other 10 and looking after the other 10 who are advancing everybody, because you've done a kingdom thing. And I'll give you a clue. The kingdom multiplies. It doesn't know how to do anything else. If you don't have kingdom, it dies. If you have kingdom, it multiplies. If you work for the enemy, it's death. If you work with the Lord, it's life. What makes you think that if you're not doing it God's way, it'll lead to equal life? I am the way, the truth, and the life. If you don't follow me, what makes you think you're going to get life? But if you do follow him, it feels very countercultural. It feels opposite to the world we're living in. Well, of course it does. Jesus brought the light, the truth, the way. Why? Because there wasn't any. He didn't bring it because there was. He brought it because there wasn't. And so to change your heart, to change your mind, to go through a process where you're willing to, when you hit, so let me make a quick observation. I a comment I wrote down before. When we first start in our education, we get information. And often in our training, we find a clash between the information and our capacity. But what the world does, so I'm told if you do this, you do that, this will happen. But when you go to do the information, you can't do it. So you've been given it, and you've been told to do it, but you don't have any skill or capacity or competency. So what is happening is, you've got to learn a new thing. You've got to put off an old thing and put on a new thing, is the Bible term. Put off, put on. And that's stressful. But we think everything we're going to do following Jesus has to be 100% easy. Well, getting rid of a lie can take a little time. A long-term agreement with silly takes a while to change. Who's had a habit in their life that took a little while to stop? Don't talk about the ones that you haven't stopped yet. Just the ones that you've got a victory over. So you know that it takes a while. You get the truth in Jesus, you get new life, but you're living an old life and you have to change the pattern. The same goes with training people. Just because they don't know doesn't mean they won't know. Just because they can't do doesn't mean they won't be able to do. If you'll take the process with them and serve them and love them, they will get there and they will honour you like we honour Jesus for being loving. Now, this doesn't make you a doormat. This doesn't make you get used. You advance them, they advance you. A couple of quick comments and then I want to give you a chance to reflect. Most people are good at 2 of the 4 as a leader. Ruben and me, we're pretty good at D1 and D4. We can have a great idea really easily, and we're happy to tell you all just to go and do it right now. Do you understand? But what happens in that process is people, unless you're an early adopter and an early adapter, if you're not a quick person to chase after it, you lose it, and then you feel like you're not worth it. So what happens to people that are like us is that we can lose the majority. We'll take the ones that move really quickly with us, but we can lose the ones who come a bit slower. And who knows, God likes all his sheep, not just the fast runners. So the other situation is often it will happen with the number 2 and number 3. People will be so attached to their people. They're so who's a kind person here in the room? Anyone kind here? You're all kind. Indonesian, man. Yeah. What happens is they coach and they encourage and they equip, and they coach and encourage and equip, and they consolidate and they collaborate and they coach and encourage and equip, and 10 years later they're still doing the same thing and no one's been advanced, and people get bored and they'll look for another opportunity where they can advance. So what happens is we either push too hard or we hold too tight. And if you do all 3, you do the challenge and the relationship, and you take people through the process. See, it's not a program, it's a process. What you'll find is everyone gets advanced. And when they're advanced, you're advanced. There's things to consider if you want to be a bit more technical, not too much time on this. There's a difference between individuals and team management. There's a difference between leaders and learners. There's a difference between early adopters and late adopters. It's a process, not a program. And there's things you need to be wise about when you're advancing people and promoting them. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You just need to be wise. I do, you watch. I do, you help. You do, I help. You do, I watch. When I heard that the first time, I never forgot it. And for me, it has been a breakthrough. I have 10 people around me now who exercise ministries that I was leading and do them better than me. Because their natural giftedness has bubbled up to the top because God taught me how Jesus did it. And this is how kingdom works, because we multiply, we don't add. We don't add a percentage, we multiply. If you want to be a person that has a business, then grow in through this. If you want to be a person that can not work in a business but own a business and or more, then take everyone else through this. And friends, all of you will be sitting here going, Bruce, that's really, really simple. That is so simple. Until you try to do it and you can't see your own blind spot. Because your blind spot is your roadblock. So every time it stops and doesn't work, you can't see because you don't see what you don't know, because you're at D1. Anyone get that? Okay. So that's just a little comment. There's a handout coming around. Can I check how much time people have got to reflect on it? There's some questions on the handout. Has everybody got it? It's coming. I have great faith. A handout will manifest in your very presence. Shabbat.
5 minutes.
5 minutes, right. So in the 5 minutes, when the handout, there's a handout down there, I've seen it drink. I got zero faith, total belief. I saw it. Here it comes. So here's the questions for you, friends. You're going to be able to take away that sort of the 4 boxes. You're going to be able to see those basic principles. Some of you will feel like you're an expert in that already, and then you can tell me how many people you've advanced. That'll tell me how good you are. See, I can tell the root by the fruit. If you've advanced hundreds and hundreds of people, I'll know you already know. And if you've advanced no one, then you've got a lot to learn. And you could learn it, and you could look like Jesus. You could believe in them like he believes in you. So the questions you ask yourself, what insight have I found? For me, it was I was missing 2 steps. So the first time I heard it, I'm missing 2 steps. I've got to choose to put them in. I do 2 easily. I have to choose the 2 that I really am not interested in. I have to do it if I'm going to have a kingdom outlook and I'm going to serve people. What steps are you best at? You might borrow some energy from them to put into the ones you're not good at. Because who knows, you don't have any more minutes in your day than you already have. So if you're really good at something naturally, take some of the time away from that and put it into the thing you need to learn. Borrow resources from one to grow the other. What steps are in your blind spot? It could be a hard question to answer. I can't see what I can't see because I don't know what I don't know. But it's a good question to think about. You might be able to get that in a workshop with a bit of help. What roadblocks have you identified as you're listening to this? And if you had a next step, what would the next step be? Would it be get help? Would it be better leader? Which would it be? What are the steps that you would... Because I'd like to think I'm moderately entertaining. I've behaved myself very well here today. Ask Ruben. I have been a very, very good boy. Because I am a little bit...
Unusual.
Unusual, yes. They can tell you I'm a bit crazy. Like a kangaroo. When someone is described as having some mental issues in Australia, I'm not being derogatory, but it's meant to be funny, not derogatory. So if it goes all sour now, although you'll see me be naughty. But when someone's struggling mentally or emotionally in Australia, they say they've got a kangaroo loose in the top paddock. So it's just hopping around like crazy. That's a little bit like what else in your house, which is why you kept your children away. So ask yourself these questions. You will have opportunities. Ruben, I think, is going to share with you what sort of opportunities we can serve you with. Now, friends, I've got to tell you, we actually don't want anything from you. We want you to become who you're designed to be. We want you to be so blessed that you are a blessing. We want you to move to such a position that you have breakthrough that you share with others. We want that for you so that at one stage in your life you will turn around and you go, as it's given me, I'm going to give others. I want to get you to a position where you can multiply yourself. I call it do yourself out of a job, get a new one. Get someone to actually be who you are in their skin, their personality. If you could do that, you can multiply your successfulness to a kingdom paradigm where the rest of Jakarta is coming to you to ask you how you did it. You have such favour. Where people want a job in your business because you don't use them and spend them, but you serve them. This is so counter-cultural. It's different to everything we know. But kingdom comes because it's just like Jesus. Does anyone feel like that's something they would like to them or through them? So sit down with any questions, any options that you have in terms of following up the rest of the team. I'm more like a helper. The rest of the team will be able to help you with what's your options are. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy